You're searching for something whole, cause what you see real life. You're watching this world unfold, the truth beneath the lies, rekindling what's been stole, the need to free one's mind, uncover the truth exposed, so people see the light. Let's chant it down.
Bonjour, greetings, everyone out there. Dissolving the Divide once again. We have a special friend from Hawaii, of all places, and learned about this man through his music and his radio show years ago, Chant It Down Radio, and was blessed to be on a show months ago, and we've been planning having you on for a while. Glad to get over the hump of, the waiting and debating for things to happen.
Yes.
Aside from a radio show host, you are, a musician, truth speaker, and wonderful human being. Leslie, how you doing?
Yeah, hi, I'm good. Hey, Derek. Hey, Luemas. Glad to have you here to Dissolving the Divide. And I'm interested to hear more about what it's like on the islands and your perspective, as well as kind of the mission that you're on. And I thought I would read a little bit from your website, chantitdownradio.com, just to share a little bit about what you're about. Your subtitle's Where We Deprogram from the Deep Program. So
that's right.
It ain't no superficial stuff. You say, if you've ever felt like there was something wrong in this world, but you couldn't quite place a finger, it's time to learn how to chant it down. Or you've been slaving your whole life away, stuck to the grind, and you feel like there must be more to this existence. Chant It Down Radio is your unraveling. We take you on a journey with the perspective of looking at the truth and getting to the root causes of the problems we face on this planet. So there's a lot to this. And I think I like how you're stating that there's an unraveling, like an unlearning in this process. And I'm wondering if you might speak a little bit to your mission and what you're setting out to do in your radio program.
Oh, yeah. And thanks for having me, guys. It's good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel honored to be here.
Glad to have you.
Yeah, good to join with you guys. And the truth is just, I've set out to, I guess it kind of goes into my backstory a little bit. I'll get into it a little bit and then just kind of. So I met an insider in 1999 through synchronicity. I was just like not expecting to meet this person, much older than me, and and told me the truth about the world. And I was like 21. I was 20. And anyway, he told me about the truth in the world, and he unraveled me. It took years to totally do the process of unraveling, but this guy was an actual insider. He actually worked for the USDA really high up, and I lived in this house on the Big Island at the time where there was this extra room. It was a revolving door that was a rental, and he was there only because he's building a house for his family to get away from the line of work he's in, and he knew what was coming down the pipes, and he told me all kinds of things. He even predicted 9/11 back in 1999. I don't know how he knew all that, but this guy opened up my mind, and when he did so, I realized that everybody around me was not awake to things and not aware of what's going on this planet and about to happen, especially after 9/11 occurred. I realized how right this guy was. So everything else that I kind of doubted, I started to investigate, and he was totally right about every single facet. So what happened is I realized that I unraveled, and I wanted to unravel those around me from the blinders that were on them, because most of the people that were around me were very asleep, very shallow. The conversations weren't about anything. And that's what allowed me to break away solo in the first place and get in that situation where I met that insider. And anyway, so I always look at giving the truth to people is starting to unravel the layers. So I did a series of shows in the very beginning. My podcast started in 2013, and I thought a good way to help people to take layers off one by one was this mini series I called the system Tentacles. And I kind of made the analogy of how the tentacles of an octopus are wrapped around you, and one by one you got to take them off. So one of them was the media, another one was how the food and nutrition is been hijacked, and another one is the medical system, and so on, the government, politics, everything, to where when you take each one off, it's like peeling the layers of an onion, as the cliche saying goes. But basically you strip yourself naked of all the influences that the institution of organized society have given us, and you realize who you are without the system. And that's a really important way to look at things, is try to see who are you without all these extra tentacles attached. Is that really you, or is that the system making you who is not an authentic you? And so it took about 30 shows roughly to unravel this system. And that's how I prepped my audience way back in the day, is to take each layer off and identify what's wrong, so you're not duped, so you can go on with the rest of the series, rest of the stuff I talk about later on. So that's kind of what unraveling means. And no, a lot of the people around me did not go down that path. It's like the people that are around you the most reject you the most. I find it. And so did I have any luck? Not really, but I think maybe the people that listen to my show have, and hopefully some people that I've ran into, I definitely have seen some unraveling. So
yeah. So that, I think, is a good description of what we might call deprogramming. Right, that there's these layers of programming that we're all subject to and that we're not aware of. And I love this analogy of pulling out the tentacles, and recognizing that there's multiple tentacles attached to us that are sort of hijacking our, who we are, and that most of us don't ever really get to know who we are, because it starts from really young age, right? Yeah.
And it's not a simple thing to do. I mean, I'm still influenced by things that were in my life, and I'm sure you guys are too. It's not like you just come clean slate of it all, because it's kind of like part of our existence, all these influences and different ways and patterns we think and act in. But what we can try to do is at least diminish and mitigate these negative unseen things at first, so we can deprogram and become clearer and more concise, straight sharp thinking human beings.
Nice and refined, kind of like that alchemical process, which is kind of like what you're going over, in a sense of just like eliminating everything that is not really about you, your true core essence, and all these outside influences. And unfortunately there's going to be so much residuals hanging off, and it does take years to really get all this stuff out of your system. And going throughout the years, like you and I have been pretty much at it around the same time, brother, and that's really cool. And I'm interested as to like all these tentacles, whatever, seem to have their own polarizing points of it. And we can understand there's controlled opposition, psychological operations, and things that really pit certain people against other people, whether it be on the extreme conspiracy side of things, or the very whatever, like influenced programmed brainwashed minds that
like what to buy, consumerism and things. So what are the main issues that you've really identified as like the most influential tentacles, I guess, that you think people need to be aware of?
Well, like for beginners, there's the media. I mean, the media is huge, because it's not just the news. It's now on everybody's phone. It's social media. It's magazines. It's the Tell Live Vision is just a massive brainwashing mechanism right in your living room, conveniently placed. So when you get off work and you're tired and you turn on that thing, you're very pliable and susceptible to the alpha state it puts you in the hypnotics and all that. So and the flicker rate. So that one I always start with anyone who's a beginner. But on the more extreme side of things, for people that are already kind of woken up, I think belief in government is a really big thing that people are being duped by, that we need authority. And so I always have harped on that. I became an anarchist in 2003, but not through the information like this, New World Order investigation. It came about through a totally different group of people that I now don't agree with as much, but they're one of those hyphenated anarchist groups. But it did show me the missing piece of the puzzle, that the problem with this planet is government, and it's a huge problem. And I'm not a wealthy person, but I love to travel. It's one of my things. And I've gone all over this earth, well, not everywhere, but a lot of places, and everywhere it's the same problem. What's the problem? The government. Everybody hates it. So, but it's a hard thing for people to get past in their minds, is chanting down, as I say, to that level, going to that part of it. But I like to show people those those are big ones in that category of things. But as far as issues on the planet and just things going on, one of the biggest things that I've spoken up about, and anybody who listens to my show probably has heard a lot, is chemtrails. To me, that is one of the biggest things that's been going on and causing effects on the environment. I mean, weather control, our bodies, our health, everything living on this planet. They have changed the fish tank water basically since they started doing these programs in mid 90s, full scale. And it's really had a cumulative effect. And I've been harping on that for a long time. And I think what's the problem with that one is
No
we
pun
all
intended,
know
right?
about it, but it's like one of those things where because we see it all the time, oh, well, we're still here, but actually it's doing a lot of accumulative damage, and it's causing, it's allowing people to believe in global warming because they don't realize, or climate change, because they think it's actually climate change when really those things are changing our climate. So it goes to the heart of a lot of this. So chemtrails have always been a big thing in my activism as far as telling people about it, because I find that that's a good thing. You can actually point up and say, hey, you see those, and they can actually maybe make the correlation. It's funny how many people don't, though. But yeah,
Right.
those are some issues that I do get into a lot. I do a lot of different things, but those ones stick out when you ask me. Like,
yeah. No, I think those are all really key issues. And what I see as a commonality are the lies that are told about the real, these issues, and how they're framed and portrayed through the media, and through government narratives, right? So then we, as a general population, we're walking around with lies and living in somewhat of a fantasy world around what we're seeing, right? So that this is the unraveling, the unlearning is actually like questioning and seeing that there's some trickery going on and misinformation, so to speak, right? Yeah.
I suppose a lot of people don't like to think that they're being duped. There's an ego thing about it too. A lot of people, they just couldn't think that that humanity could possibly be that evil, or that they could be that stupid to be that tricked. But I think there's a humility factor in there that a lot of people won't go for some of this information too. Not to mention they've been, they've taken the word, let's say, conspiracy or anarchy. These are words that trigger things in people's heads that is already pre-programmed. They've made people already think of something else instead of what it really is, and obfuscated the words. So it's hard. That's the other side of it. But I mean, that's the work we all do, is we're trying to change worldview. And I don't know. I think meeting people in the right where they're at is important. So and really trying to understand them, because I've gone through a lot of stages. I know you guys have too, of trying to tell people about things.
Mhm.
And maybe when you first get out, it's kind of like my friend says, it's kind of like when people first become vegan, or when someone becomes a born again Christian or something. They want to convert the whole world, but you can't come out there with that attitude. And I think we all know that, but it's a refinement of approach to people that
Yeah.
in as many stages of the unraveling. And I think
Mhm.
when the people are in that bullhorning stage, that's just the beginning part of it, because you want to tell everybody, but
Mhm.
it's got to be
Mhm.
more, you got to come more equipped, I think, if anyone wants to start telling people about this stuff more
Mhm.
nuanced,
Yeah,
and
for
eclectic.
sure. Yeah, I like the word nuanced, and I think
good
being
points.
compassionate, right,
Yeah.
to where people are at in their journey, and understanding it is a layering process, right? You
Yeah,
want
and
to keep
getting
them
one's rhetoric
engaged.
down.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, we've covered in our first episode of how language is part of the battlefield, and how, yeah, like you mentioned, like, these words anarchy and whatever, even the word government, these are hijacked words if you go deep into the etymology of it all. And Luemas, I'm interested as far as like over there, like natives and locals, what kind of what have you noticed with the language over there? I mean, you guys have a certain way of talking, your slang thing. I mean, I've been to the
Mhm.
islands a couple times, and yeah, it's really cool. I have some Hawaiian friends. I used to play soccer with some, but I
Mhm.
mean, that was like yesteryear, so I kind of forgot about that. I took up French in place of, but yeah. What have you noticed as far as like, yeah, just the overall state of the language over there, and how education is involved in that kind of thing?
Well, not great in a lot of ways.
Huh.
I mean, people are very nice in Hawaii, most people, and that that's a point, but there's a lot of ignorance out here in many ways, and it's unfortunate. But a lot of people don't know a lot about any of the stuff I talk about. I mean, it's like, kind of live alone with most of my perspectives here. I don't have a big crowd of people that know what we know, but a lot of the people here in the language, Hawaii has its pidgin, which is as a broken English here that people speak, and it's basically because we had so many cultures here to work in sugar and pineapple, and then you had the native Hawaiians, and everybody wanted to communicate, so they kind of made a very broken English. So you'll find, like, you know uh just kind of like a lot of basic talk out here. Hawaii's not super deep in things, and a lot of and it I don't want to talk negative, because I love Hawaii, but there is ever since COVID happened, especially, I realized the ignorance out here goes a long ways, and it's unfortunate. It doesn't help. The people eat, a lot of people like love McDonald's here. They go to really bad diets, and which in the outcome comes into, I think, worse consciousness out here. So the general consensus of Hawaii is not, it's not a very conscious place, but there's a lot of people that have moved here that are seeking that, and there is some deep spirituality to these islands. These islands have a lot of, when we say mana, which is a spiritual energy, there is certain things about Hawaii that are very magical, and if you can tap in and tune into that here, there is that. And that takes people in a lot of different ways. uh Hawaii does have an anti-government sentiment, not so much anti-government, but anti American, because the kingdom was stolen here a long time ago. And so you do have some feisty Hawaiians that are, rightfully so, to be upset about what happened in the past. But these groups don't, they kind of just would say, well, let's just bring back the old kingdom of Hawaii. And none of them agree on the same thing. So it's kind of like, but there is that here, but I certainly don't know where all that feistiness went to during COVID. Everybody obeyed and laid down here like you wouldn't believe. And I think that's what really did upset me about being here at COVID. It changed my view of how obedient everybody is, and unquestioning, and gullible. And unfortunately, that's really bad ingredients when Tyranny's coming in at the level they did here, where all I could do was go to a grocery store. I got kicked out of everything because I didn't want to get the death shot. So, and they're really pushing hard because we have this guy, Governor Green, who is Josh Green New Deal. Basically, he's just a puppet for the World Economic Forum here, and he's the one that pushed the vaccine passport. Everybody laid down. They voted him in. So, yeah, it's not great here in that way. But how can I say it? I love Hawaii too. It's home. There's so much to love here, but there's a lot of people that are misled.
Yeah. So since COVID, there's been the fires, and I wonder if you might share the overview of what the impact on the islands from these big events and how that is important for us to be aware of.
And I'm curious also if like, was there, anything from that event where people trying to unite and that kind of stuff, or did you see like a little division or differing opinions and that kind of stuff? And how conspiracy theories come about of like, oh, why it happened, and oh, is there a land grab and blah blah blah, that kind of stuff. But I really hope folks were more trying to support each other and amidst the fucking devastating crisis. But
Right, yeah.
Actually, now that you say that, what comes to mind is more people have, at least on Maui, not so much here on Oahu, but on Maui, have really woken up to the fact that it could have been a directed energy weapon, and it could have been like people are like openly speaking about it like it really was, and it's a land grab. I mean, they can see that. So that it maybe it's as terrible as it was, it did take that crisis to wake some people up like that, which is good. And it seems to be the common thing people say is like, yeah, it was a directed energy weapon. Like people didn't have a hard time being convinced of that, apparently. But it was really it was a big event, and it impacted Hawaii in a way that, well, like over here, it didn't impact us too much. I mean, it did, because I think it was on everybody's mind. But now that it's been how many months? 3 months? Nobody's talking about it anymore. Yet a whole town got devastated to 12,000 by a fire where the police blocked everybody in. So there's some extreme order following. But this whole event was set up long time ago. I had Ole Demigard on my show. You guys might know Ole. He broke down this event, and he doesn't even live here, really well on my show. But I too had my own observations of it, because the governor had appointed the chief of police on Maui, the same chief that was from the Las Vegas shootings. It's a whole crew they set up. So when this thing actually happened, they got everybody in control of all these different, departments. Like, for example, they turned off the water. Why would they turn that? They didn't sound the alarm. There's so many suspicious things that happened through this. So there was a lot of pre-planning that made that happen. And so Hawaii doesn't usually have big events. We did have the missile scare about 2018, and that's suspicious too. Same crew of people, in fact, I believe. But just to say, we don't usually have big events, but I'm thinking that these crazy elites want to start putting little vents like Lahaina everywhere, so nowhere is like immune to this, and more people believe it was climate change, and more people believe that we need to all go to 15-minute cities. So I'm thinking that this might just have been one of many, because after that we had Greece and Libya and all this all these fires in Turkey, just right in the same time period too. And we don't know if positively if it came from weather weapons, but I have my suspicions, definitely.
Have you seen any relationship between the chemtrails and the weather engineering or the fires?
Yeah, well, yes. with that event or just in general?
Well, in general, I think, because I'm in Northern California where we have
Okay.
like major fires and we see
Yeah.
the chemtrails all the time. And we're always talking, speculating, like, is it something in the chemtrails that is setting up the vulnerability of the forest? Is there, what is there an interconnection? What's creating these fires,
Some people say that that
Mhm.
like aluminum oxide is flammable, but when I think about the long view, I've been paying attention to chemtrails since like 98. Somebody actually
Mhm.
showed me in the sky and I was like, wow, that's not right. And so I don't remember any of these kind of crazy fires until maybe around like 2017. So what really kind of like you think about is why weren't they happening the whole time? Because of,
Mhm.
I think there's more to it. I think that what they do is they work with maybe these direct energy weapons where they'll make the weather windy and then cause a
Mm.
fire, and then the fire does feed from the wind.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
seems like that's the case with this particular event in Maui, because the thing I noticed is we had a hurricane south of us. Oh, it's like maybe 600 miles south of Hawaii, and suddenly it they said that the winds were going to come in from the south and we're going to, be on a weather watch. Well, it wasn't at all. The winds were coming from the northeast. And although I didn't see any spray that day, I figured that they were messing with stuff somewhere north of here to cause us to get the exact opposite winds that they were saying they were. So I thought that was very, you know, suspicious in that way, that they weren't even coming from the right direction.
Hmm. Yeah, sort of odd behaving, unusual patterns. Like here we had these fire tornadoes,
Mhm.
and irregular paths of where the fire went. And we were recently, I was listening to some folks talk about the hurricane in Acapulco and how it traveled in a very unusual path into the mountains instead of along the beach, along the shoreline. So there just seems to be oddities coming
Yeah.
up in more of these events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did a presentation that was actually early this year, called What Happened to Cobalt Blue Skies. That's on my
Mm.
Odyssey and Rumble, if anyone wants to check that out. But one of the things I had to go over was I had to break down that is a twofold talk, because when you think there's all the bullshit we've been fed about climate change. There's all the, that it's carbon, it's us. And then though there is climate change and it's coming from these programs. So you kind of have to break it down twofold. You kind of have to, talk about the fact that, that none of these things they're saying are real, except that the things that are real are these programs, and they are affecting the weather and making crazy weather. And so, yeah, I can see why people that don't know about this believe in climate change, because we are seeing crazy weather. You're seeing it where you live. You can't really escape it. When I went to Europe, a little couple over a year ago, man, they hammered wherever we went. They were just dumping so much. I couldn't even believe it. And yeah, it affects our health and everything. So you probably see that in France, Derek, a lot, or yeah,
Yeah, for
you
the
got.
past dozen years, something like that. Um, yeah, I'm kind of curious. What would you say to sometimes I'm living out in the south of France, and it's just like wow, like walking around sometimes, or even working on a beach where there's hundreds of people there. Like, do you not see the big elephant in the sky type of thing? And I call it like airplane diarrhea in French. Sometimes it's kind of try to break the ice in such a non-conspiratorial type of way sometimes, but it's
For sure.
on that train of thought. I'm kind of curious, like how are you able to try to like address this kind of thing with someone that's gonna completely disagree with you, because they're gonna say like, oh, it's this is that they believe in so much in like the narrative of regarding climate change. They don't see the climate hacking and the geoengineering behind it all, and they're not going to be like they're not gonna think, oh well, not everyone. How can everyone be, in on it type of thing? As if, not everyone's in on, like believing in Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny or something like that sometimes.
Right, right.
Do you have any kind of way to break the ice to them, or
Yeah,
just
I do. I
instead
mean,
of like black
one of
pilling
the
them or whatever? Like,
one of the I mean, it's hard. You don't get
all
me
right, yeah.
wrong, it totally is hard. But one of the things that I always say is I show them how there was a medieval warming period followed by a little ice age. And, I try to show them how the weather has cycles on the planet, and that actually we're going toward a more cooling time, if you believe it. But see, the problem with saying that too is I run into, well, actually, the weather's all messed up. So it's kind of hard to actually convince them of that. But there are things that see that you can kind of pull out, because they're cherry picking data is what they're doing, and selling it to the masses, like that graph from that guy Michael Mann, that famous hockey stick graph that that's just rising and rising. But what they're not showing you is the bigger model of Earth's history, such as that medieval warming period, where they could grow grapes as far as England, and they could grow dates as far as Germany, And so there is a lot of things, but the one I wanted to find here it is the Club of Rome 1971 book, Limits of Growth. And this particular thing I'll read right here is kind of like the beginning of it all. So if someone really wants to know where this started to come from, and it goes like this: the common enemy to humanity is man. In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill. And here's the other part. All of these dangers are caused by human intervention, and it is only through changed attitudes and behavior that they can be overcome. The real enemy then is humanity itself. We believe humanity requires a common motivation, namely a common adversary, in order to realize one world government. It does not matter if the enemy is a real one or one invented for the purpose. So,
That
they're
says it.
basically telling you right there, they invented this thing.
Yeah, I know that one pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems pretty clear, right?
It
It's
should.
Club of
very
Rome is
much,
what, a think tank, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
right?
it's a think
Elitist,
tank where a lot of
social engineering.
depopulationists and eugenics type minded people that they probably recruit from places like Satanism and occults, that they get the best groomed psychopath from these different little cult groups and bring them into their, so that that just shows you like how they recruit psychopaths, and if they can be a great useful idiot, then more power for them. That's what they think. So yeah, Club of Rome's pure evil.
so there's a process here that's important of broadening your view of what's going on, and to see these bigger patterns, and that when we allow like our trust to be put in the government who's giving us these cherry-picked explanations, we're very likely just getting a manipulated explanation of what's going on, not the whole truth. So when we can like look beyond and deeper, then we can see that what they're telling us isn't making sense. Right? Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So there's a certain responsibility for the people ourselves to recognize that our belief, in what we're being told, this blind belief, is part of the problem. Yeah.
It's faith in the institutions of society, and it's thinking that they're out for our best interest, but people don't realize, and they just haven't caught up with the world, that maybe some of these agencies back in the day weren't so bad. Maybe some of them were actually filled with people that cared about humanity, but not anymore. It was hijacked a long time ago. And so now that we're in the century of psyops, that's what I call the 21st century. And now that we're here, all these institutions are completely corrupted and working against humanity, and people And I think that's what waking up is all about too, is somebody finds something corrupt and they just go, well, wait a minute, why is this? So they go up the levels. Like I have a friend who got woken up by AIDS. He found out how much of a scam AIDS was. So then he's like looking further, wait, why? Oh, Dr. Fauci was involved. Oh, and then things start clicking and nexus points start connecting. And for some people, that's how they wake up. Others people could be chemtrails, or what you kind of want to do too. I was just thinking when you were talking, I thought of this a long time ago. It's like, if you went into somebody's house and you peeled a little bit of their wallpaper off, it really pisses them off, right? But maybe there's some cool looking color underneath. And so it bothers them so much that they got to peel a little bit more and check it out. Well, maybe that's something you could do as an analogy with their mind, is peel a little bit of wallpaper off in their brain. And
Yeah, I like
that.
that. See the colors underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So then I think about, okay, you're on the island of Oahu.
I like that.
Yeah.
So where you were living and the islands around is super touristy, right? So there's almost this fantasy existence or view of the islands of Hawaii, right? And I'd like to hear more about the comparison and contrast between sort of the tourist industry and what the tourists see and think about the islands versus what what they don't see, I guess, and what's really life on the islands.
Yeah, give us a tour, man. No.
All right, here we go. So if you look to your right, you'll see the mountains. But we have a beautiful landscape, and everybody can agree on that Hawaii is a very beautiful place. Locals, tourists alike. And when tourists come here, they come for the reason to, well, and like anywhere, they don't experience the local population, and they just become like they're stuck in a market where they got to pay more for everything because they're in Touristville and stuff. So they kind of have blinders on and they're having a good time, and they're not here to investigate what it's like to live here. And I get it. I do that too. Probably when I visit places, not enough looking at the local population maybe, but what Hawaii's a place of a lot of mixes of culture. I mentioned how we have the native Hawaiian peoples, and then we have a lot of cultures from Asia that came here to work in sugar and pineapple back in the day, like Chinese, Japanese, Koreans, Filipinos, Portuguese, Spanish, Puerto Ricans, and all those cultures, they never left Hawaii. And so they kind of blended and everybody kind of married each other. So most people are a big mix of cultures here. And a lot of people don't realize there's very few actually native Hawaiians. I think there's less than 6,000 full-blooded native Hawaiians living pure, but everybody's mixed. And it's just like the Native American tragedy too. The Hawaiians had their land taken, and Hawaii has become a place where the elites have moved to. As you got, especially now modern times, Oprah, Mark Zuckerberg, Bezos, and what's that guy that owns Lanai? I forget his name. Larry Ellison owns a whole island out here. And, it's just got to become a place where everybody moved here with money, but the local population got forgotten about, basically. People are strangers in their own land. And, I've watched this place change so much. And more people can't afford to live here because the price of living is astronomically high in Hawaii. It's high in California, and pretty comparable in a lot of places, and maybe New York City, but out here is just it, and they don't pay good out here. So the problem is most people work in tourism. There's not a lot of good paying jobs, and a lot of actual professionals will come here and take up to a 20% pay cut. So it's not only really expensive, but the pay is low. So a lot of people leave Hawaii. In fact, they say the ninth island is Vegas. A lot of people from here move to Vegas. I don't really like Vegas, but a lot of people here do. So it's because it's not affordable. So a lot of people work a lot here, like a lot of jobs. And I know people that work 3 jobs, and it's just like, that's not much of a life. So the paradise aspect has been taken out of Hawaii largely because of the fact that everybody has to work so much to enjoy it, and then they don't have time to enjoy it because they're working too much. So it's a tough place like that. And then we add in the stuff I've talked about with our governor Green, and all this pushing in a lot of things that are definitely freedom eroding things here and there, as well as just our drug problem out here has gotten really bad, and homelessness, as in all the United States, just being, you can see it all over. But so it's a mixture of things out here. We got some great places to go visit, but we have all the modern problems too. Traffic's really bad out here, and stuff like that. So a lot of locals, or I mean visitors, miss the whole way of living here, as it's pretty hard if you have to pay high rent and have to pay, we pay a lot for groceries. So it's a tough place in that way, and a lot of people don't see how tough that really is. And it's like the rich are super rich out here and the poor are super poor. And I mean, if you want to go extreme, I made a video called the rough parts of Honolulu or something. I went around and on a dash cam and just recorded, like homeless and bad parts of town, just to show people a side of things people have never seen before. It's on my YouTube channel called Truth Filled Trajectory. But anyway, it just kind of shows you a whole different side of what some people call paradise here. So, like everywhere has good and bad, and I enjoy my life, and I don't let things get me down ever, really. But it's just the reality of Hawaii is a lot more darker than people think when they visit here, because of
Yeah.
all those things. Yeah.
So the fires that in Lahaina, I read that there was a lot of anger among some of the locals towards the government, feeling like that their welfare and rebuilding wasn't what was being prioritized. Do you have any insights into what was going on there?
Well, yeah. President Biden gave them $700 each.
Oh.
And gave Ukraine and Israel all kinds of money. It's just like, it was a slap in the face. So yeah, these people are pissed, because I mean, I don't pay a lot of attention to the news, but I think they're still paying mortgages and rents for these burned properties. And they're eventually, they know it's a land grab, and there's a lot of people that are trying to fight it, but they can't afford it, and eventually they'll probably sell that land. And that's what. So before the fires happened, they had this smart city conference come here called Jumpstart Maui. And so they were proposing Lahaina becomes a 15-minute like city, or smart city, let's just say, eventually probably that. But so there was a lot of locals that lived there, and well, it worked this fire worked for the benefit of people that want to take their land. And so yeah, there's a lot of people that know it's a land grab. I just don't see anybody doing anything as usual out here to try to stop that, and I wouldn't know what to do to stop it exactly either. I mean, but I don't know. It's just so much injustice being ignored, and there's a lot of children that died in that fire too that they're not reporting on.
Wow.
Yeah.
So could you expand a little bit more on what is the idea of a smart city or a 15-minute city? And
do you know the acronym of SMART, by the way? I know it has to do with surveillance and technology and all that augmented.
Oh no, I've never heard that.
Oh yeah. There's been memes floating around that for years, but I forget verbatim. But yeah, SMART, it can be broken down as an acronym for just like more. It's bigger than the Big Brother type of shit. On another level with the augmentative technology and all that stuff. Yeah, sorry. So
yeah, no, I never heard that before. I mean, smart cities are basically what it is everything would probably be cashless. I would assume that they'd be all 5G and 6G compatible to probably eventually run driverless cars. They still want to put that in. That's crazy. And basically everything is probably going to be on a social crediting system. They basically want to use the blueprint for China for a lot of these places, and 15-minute cities, meaning everything you need is within 15 minutes. I have a hard time thinking they're going to do that on Maui, to be honest. I mean, it's just not that populated to do put everything in one spot, but I guess they could. But I'm assuming that it's just everything run automated fully. And that's something, excuse me, that I do really talk about on my show a lot, is the frustrations of a fully automated society, and the fact that we're losing the human contact with each other, and the fact that you can't call any important business or corporation anymore without going through tons of prompts. It's almost impossible to talk to a human. Everything just, it doesn't work. There's no humanity in it, and AI and all this, it's and cashless, everything, QR codes and stuff, and they used COVID to push these things in. If you notice, they used COVID to push in QR codes everywhere, push in more reliance on smartphones and the internet, and more people were online more because of being home a lot. And I find that they got people more addicted to the internet than they need to be. But they pushed, and they also put in 5G everywhere during the time we were locked down in many places. So it's like this was the excuse to start setting it up. Oh, sorry, what, Jared?
You actually saw that happen? Like, they were kind of sneaky about it when everyone was, locked up in, curfew hour,
Yeah,
they, put out the, the workers to set up these
5G masts.
Really?
Yeah.
No shit.
And a lot of other places too, I've heard too. It's like, they didn't stop, even though we were in the most deadliest pandemic in world history, supposedly. They didn't stop working on these things, and the homeless didn't die off. So it's just so crazy when you look at it like that. That's the biggest glaring red flag of the whole thing, is like, these people who live the most unsanitary in our society survived through COVID. How did that happen if that was a real pandemic?
Yeah,
we don't have to go there, but just yeah. So that they use that time is to put in the 5G and to put in this tech, and to kind of if we're in the palm of a hand, the fingers are closing in, as especially since 2020. So as much as I don't like to tell people negative stuff. Like, I know, like, all the things we've talked about are pretty hardcore subjects and things that I'm not going to cheer anybody up and give them a good time, but it's like, people have to understand the world they live in and the time they live in, and it's not a time to be ignorant anymore, or it's a time to really, like, know. And it sucks. I mean, maybe if it was 1980, I could tell somebody about breakdancing, but right now we have to tell about this shit because it's happening.
Exactly. I think it's a bit remiss, or irresponsible in a sense, to just focus on the very, very fun, light, and touristy kind of stuff. This is because that's like a front to distract people from what's really going on. And I know, like, I'm close to where the car fire happened, Redding, California. And I know, I've experienced myself the trickle down that it affected housing. So a lot of land was just, homes were destroyed, people sold their land, a lot of people were homeless, a lot of cash outs. But what happened during that time is people from out of town came in, and they bought up land, and and the rents went up tremendously. Like, I was forced to move out of my home, and my rent went up like $500 a month, like, to, as a single mom, professional person, I could barely find a place I could afford. And if, I hadn't been paying a lot of attention to my credit score, and it wasn't as high as it is, coulda, shoulda been, so I almost didn't get a home. Me and my kids could have easily been homeless, as a result of that.
That's what we're in. So it's like, the times we're in are just rough. As much as, like, we can still enjoy the good things too, but I don't think anybody can really ignore now things getting worse, and how they can stay asleep through it all. I have no idea, but we were once those people, so we do have to think, like, they just didn't have that event that occurred in their life that woke them up to something, I guess. But I don't know. And then I've come up to the conclusion that some people are just here to never wake up.
Yeah, yeah. How do you keep your spirits up and keep yourself motivated to keep doing the work when there's a lot of discouraging things as well?
I never really get discouraged too much by it all. I feel like I've always felt like it's a mission to help people see and take the fog away from their eyes, kind of thing. I've always felt like it's just all positive. Now, I don't like to just tell people about, like, negative things either all the time. So, but yeah, I keep my spirits up because it's allowed me to become a little more spiritual through the whole situation. Because when you learn, and for some people, like, I never invested much in this society. Like, I've never gone to college and got that degree or went and tried to get that career job, and because I knew from a long time ago that things were going to fall apart, and I just prepared my heart and mind for it. But for some people, this information drops the bottom out on them. And so I guess, where was I going with that? I guess it's just that it's like, it depends on the person. But for me, it never really got me down too much. I mean, I guess I always heard, I was raised Christian, not like heavy or anything, but I always heard about the end of the world and the end times and stuff. So I always kind of thought, oh, maybe it is those times. And then it just sort of never really got me down. But I just feel like every time I put out a podcast or do an interview or whatever, that somebody is going to benefit from it. And it feels good that way when you drop the next one. I've never been this about popularity or getting all the likes. It's just like, it's just something that keeps coming. It's like, oh, just more stuff I want to, do. And I know, like, not everybody's going to take it and be as positive as I am about it. But I don't know. I mix in a lot of different subjects on my show too, to, like, I'll sandwich something really good in between two negative shows that are about exposing, like, the death cult or something, So I try to give variety on the show, like juggle different things. So somebody tunes into one episode, they're not going to just go from gloom and doom to gloom and doom and gloom and doom.
Yeah. Do you mind sharing more about your spiritual transformation? How this awakening has given you strength, I guess, spiritually?
Sure. I guess to me, it's always been about synchronicity of things that have come into my life. When I did meet that insider in 1999, I felt like I was really meant to meet him. And then I was really meant to give out this information. I met another insider in 2009 by more synchronous, or 8 by synchronicity too. And it just kind of like led me to believe, well, then here I have this, this mission. And I kept seeing on every clock from 2008 forward all the time. It never stops. I always see 11 after the hour, whether it's 12:11 or 11:11 or whatever. I look over and it just kept showing me that I was on a path, because I've looked that up a lot.
9/11.
That path. Yeah. That actually opened up my path too. So there you go. But like, it just showed me that there's a force behind things. You can call it God. I don't mind calling it God. Some people don't like that word. It has a lot of connotations, I know, but like, I feel like there's something leading and guiding me. And before I did podcasting in 2013, I thought I could get the message out with music. So I'm an ex hip hop artist. I started in the 90s for that. But it was always a part of me, a way to communicate. And when I got more information about this world, I thought, okay, now I have a track for my lyrics to run on, and that is telling people about this kind of stuff. And although it wasn't the most attractive, like, message for everybody, it's kind of funny that album that I did make is now making more headway with a younger crowd now, like 18, 20-year-olds. It's kind of funny, but I didn't think it would go anywhere. But what I'm saying is, I guess this guiding force has just always kind of showed me, put out things through these channels. And there's just many times that I've taken mushrooms and gone into in nature and just gone into some of the highest most beautiful places in my mind. And I realized that there's that too, like we are led by divine forces. And I had this vision when I was on mushrooms that I'm walking and there's a V shape of all these ancestors following me and helping me, and they have my back too. So it was just there's always been these guiding forces. And yeah, I call it God, and there's angels, and you know, I just feel like there's always been things, miraculous miracle things that have been shown in my life that shows me that there's, you know, this is just the time we're in. It may be negative, but you know, you can still love your life and love everybody around you, and have an awesome life, you know, even if all this stuff is happening.
I think that's really important. I feel determined to not let that be taken from me.
Yeah,
right?
You should. Yeah.
Yeah, the beauty of this planet, the real true spiritual energy that pulses through us, and nothing can really take that away from us. Right?
No. Yeah. And when you know that, then you just kind of can sit back and go, yeah, you can take everything else, but you can't take that, you know?
Yeah. And I hear the synchronicities that guided your path, and I can relate to that as well. And I think that it creates a mission and purpose, and also the more that you sort of step into it, you know, there's a certain courage and faith, perhaps, of trusting to follow the path that's sort of laid out there through those synchronistic experiences, and it generally leads to more. And we become, I think, you know, living bigger than human, in a sense, like we're connected to something bigger, and that creates momentum and power. And I think that can be inspirational too, you know. It's important. Becomes something where when we're stepping into that energy, we're also like inspiring others, and it's important.
As if you're walking and talking with purpose, which is great, and that's what keeps the boats afloat of those, you know, in the darkest hours of whatever, and like holding that light, you know, keeping it burning, you know, deep within your soul and all that good stuff. And if you haven't lit a fire within your ass to, you know, get on that track to begin with, then that's one thing. But I love I mean, that's just part of that alchemy and energy work, kind of, Leslie, as you're talking about, of just all right, we're absorbing and, you know, subjecting ourselves to all this negativity going on. How are we going through all the, you know, calcination and, you know, fermentation and the filtration of all that stuff to resolve and dissolve the issues going on? And like breath work is, we're gonna inhale the negativity, circulate it through that oscillating heart piece, and, you know, let out positive energy. That's the proper energy breath work. But I want to take it back to the island where I was really smiling, and I kind of have an affinity for your homeland, and also where my ex-wife is from, in Tahiti. And I was living there with her for a couple months, and kind of seeing, and like when I've traveled a good amount, like you have as well, Luemas. And for me, I'd try not to just like go through country to country, like, oh, because it's on my bucket list and I want to, you know, spread it on social media or tell my friends, like, yeah, I did that, I've been there, and blah blah blah. But what did you actually immerse yourself in, and like how did you like break bread with locals, and like even, you know, touch down on the lowest common denominator of places like that? And I tried to do that in Tahiti, and kind of just like not walk around with rose-colored glasses, you know, like a lot of tourists do a lot of times. And you know, visiting Hawaii a couple times, you know, with my family when I was younger, and then like seeing that American capitalized, overly commercialized influence on the islands, I noticed it wasn't such a stark difference, but it kind of was, in a sense, where, you know, the French Polynesian islands in Tahiti and around, a little bit different, but they're subjected to the same kind of issues that you brought up, and you touched upon and ticked a lot of boxes that I wanted to bring up or ask you about. As far as Hawaii kind of being one of the highest rates of homelessness apparently in America. I mean, I was prepping for this conversation, and like I was kind of shocked, like, really, homelessness is that bad? Is it really one of the most expensive states to live in America? Are more people that, you know, visit Hawaii annually from outside the islands, you know, that totality, you know, surpasses the entire population of the islands? That's pretty impressive, you know. Yes, and you touched on the traffic is pretty horrendous. I heard it's even worse than LA in some places, especially on Oahu.
Yeah.
Taxes are a bitch, like what the fuck? Even worse than Florida, I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like it's a retreat for the rich retired folks in Fuckerberg or whatever the hell his name is, bought out
It's close
a
enough.
shitload
Yeah.
of land that is still encroaching on and blocking people's, you know, parchments of land that they were entitled to through hereditary family, you know, for a while and stuff, ancestral shit. And yes, there is racial tension, if you want to mention that kind of bit. And like there is a difference between true natives, which I was surprised and shocked to hear, like you mentioned, such a small, you know, number of the actual originals, and like have that bloodline, I guess, versus like locals. And yes, there's a lot of what we're talking about ties into like the gentrification of things, and how, yeah, things are getting kind of pushed into like these smart city type of things. It's following certain, you know, templates and trajectories of, you know, the whole technocratic takeover of fucking society, it seems, you know. And yeah, I'm from techie town, San Francisco, where that shit got taken over, and I was like in
Yeah.
shock and awe, like looking out from the outside in from France, you know, like it started off in Silicon Valley, which is, you know, south of San Francisco, and you just see the encroachment and just, you know, the prices skyrocketed. And it's just like it's an infectious disease all over the fucking place. As
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
experienced, and like life on the islands are fucking expensive also. Like in Tahiti, like you have to import a lot of stuff, and
Yeah.
like you only have such a base amount of, you know, natural resources to pull from, aside from things that we can create like tourism and this and that, that over time we can kind of become dependent on. Yet there's like a side that's kind of resentful for that, because it just, you know, invites so many more non-locals or whatever. And it kind of like, yeah, there's also like a pollution problem going on, like having to deal with like all these new hotels and high rises and all this stuff. So yes, gentrification means a lot of things across many nations, but yeah. And
It's
folks are
all
trying to leave the
happening.
island. That's sad to see, man. And
Yeah.
here.
It's all happening. All that you said is happening out here, and been happening, but just it's just become a rich man's paradise in the last 20 years or so. Just like total rich man's paradise, and then everybody else just works hard. And I mean, it's like that all over now. I mean, one of the things I noticed is I have friends in the Pacific Northwest, and they've told me their prices of food and their rent prices are nearly caught up with here. So it's like we used to be that place that's super expensive and no one could touch us, but now like the whole West Coast that I know is just about as high as here. And a lot of places are just, you know, it's hard. Yeah, they're making it harder for everybody to live. I've noticed that tourism out here is dwindling. Our busy seasons aren't as busy as they used to be. I know some concierges at hotels that tell me that people are not doing the extras out here. They're just doing the minimal. And yeah, I mean, it's expensive, and Hawaii's outpriced even tourists. Like, you know, a family of four coming out here for a week, wow, that would be a lot of money, you know, and versus Mexico or somewhere, you know, less commercialized and or less, you know, high price. So yeah, it's unfortunately it's become that. And I might even have to leave Hawaii at one point. But you know, it's it, you know, I've left and come back many times, and I usually enjoy when I come back. Hold on one second, guys. Sorry. All right.
It's cool, man.
We're all
Gotta
good.
get in and out of the matrix and fucking, yeah.
So maybe this is a good time to talk about some of the solutions that you see, or advice or recommendations. How do you guide people through this maze of information and the, I guess, disillusionments of the unraveling?
Yeah, I just start with the beginning, like I was saying, you know, I got to see where they're at too, you know, and everybody, it applies different. Like, if you meet somebody and I don't know, they're all sold on the climate change scam, then, you know, you got to plant some seeds. And yeah, that's it. It's like you plant seeds rather than tell them the whole thing. It's too much. But, you know, if I were to, you know, I'd probably read off that thing from the 1971 Limits of Growth book, you know, or something. But, you know, little things, just leave the door open, put your toe in the door if you get your toe in the door if you can, and just kind of like, I don't know, just look, I don't, you know, there's been very few people, like, I don't meet a lot of people. So when I go out in the world and it's rare that I really even care to get in a conversation with people about anything anymore. That's not good, but that's just how I roll. When I go in a store, I just want to go in and out these days.
I've been there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've chosen the media to be your platform.
Well, just for beginners, because it's so much of everything. I have an actual mini series of shows that spurred off of just talking about the media called the Television Visions. And it just, you know, we go through all kinds of aspects of our mind control and, you know, from, you know, the beginning of TV and everything, you know, all the different programs we've been through, all the decade programming, all the ways that we've been manipulated to think. And you know, and at first it's kind of fun to go over that stuff. And then it gets a little darker as you get into like Edward Bernays and the Tavistock and the Frankfurt and all that stuff. But it's you know, it's just a good way for a lot of people to, in these days, sometimes you could talk about, because everybody hates now how woke everything is in TV and movies, and then didn't used to be. You can kind of maybe get your toe in the door that way too with media. But media is one way to do it, and another way to talk about it is just, well, for some people it's just like how they're not free, like our freedom's eroding everywhere, you know. And kind of, one of the models I've used on my show for years are some of the tribes that have been in places that are isolated, like in Africa and South America, and where they live completely free, and they lived in communities that weren't, they were egalitarian, they were just like hunter-gatherers, and you know, and use that as sort of a way of saying, hey, that's what someone completely free of the system might be like. I mean, maybe it's primitive or whatever, but like still it's like without all the influences of our society, and just, you know, just being free, and how that's not allowed anymore or anywhere, you know. Just as you can't just go make a fire somewhere and, you know, cook your food. That's how unfree you are, you know. And so you can kind of go down those rabbit holes. I don't know, I just go all over whoever I meet. I just try to bring them to some level of, you know, consciousness. And if my show bounces between so many different subject matters, and sometimes, like I've seen a lot of UFOs in my life, so sometimes I go into ufology a little bit and talk about, you know, try to mitigate the bullshit out of that. But still, like, there's stuff to see from that perspective, or ancient history. That's one of my favorite topics to talk about, is ancient civilizations, because I've been able to visit a lot of these places, like the pyramids and Machu Picchu and stuff, and that stuff's fun. And actually that can sometimes go into the fact that, hey, there's a cover up on what really happened here in history. Like, wouldn't you want to know, like, why haven't they you know, shown us all these extra corridors under Giza, or, you know, why, you know, and how could they have built these things, and, you know, those things. And then they realize that academia is covering up, and then, you know, you might have someone run up down that rabbit hole, if, you know, unravel. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, there's many entryways
there
into
is, yeah.
And that's what your show is really about. It's like being eclectic and and you may not catch somebody on topic A, but they might be into topic C, and
Yeah.
pull them
Mhm.
in to think and question. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I love it.
Thanks.
And do you incorporate music still into your programs? Is it an important part?
Occasionally, I don't have any of my lyrics memorized from way back anymore. It's like gone, deleted file. I don't know, just many years ago. And so
Mhm.
sometimes I'll do little freestyles and things, or I'll play an old track that I recorded, just to kind of maybe see if I can sell a few CDs, even though nobody buys CDs anymore. But they can go to my Patreon, and I do, as much as I hate Patreon, but they can unlock my album and download it if they want over there and stuff. But yeah, anyway,
Yeah.
I do sprinkle it in there, and of course my intros and outros is still me. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So you've shared several different platforms that you're on. So I'd like for you to consolidate, where people can find your work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, chantitdownradio.com is the website, and that is where you can launch from there. I have a YouTube channel, Truth Filled Trajectory. I can't believe I still have it. But I've had a few strikes against it, but it's still there, and there's some work there, but not a lot because it's all censored. I had to take everything good off of there. So the alternative channels would be Odyssey and Rumble. I am on those for videos, but most people, and me included, listen to audio podcasts. It's just my favorite way to listen to a podcast, because I'm could be driving or working in a garden listening or something, or cleaning the house. So any podcast player out there and I actually dress up the audio better than the video. So I usually put in an intro with some music in the background and kind of talk about things. So I think the best place is still audio. I mean, because I came from radio. Originally, I called my show Chant It Down Radio, and then they were being downloaded into what you call podcasts, but I still enjoy that audio experience. So so anyway, the audio feed might be the very best place to catch everything, because I don't make videos for every show I do. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Yeah. Any other questions that you on your mind, Derek?
Yeah, definitely. Because just I understand how some of the locals in Hawaii have just like, it can be super frustrating of just like so much outside influence of just, and like the overall landscape on a multitude of levels has just changed, even like kind of alluding back to what you mentioned in the beginning from decades ago. Like what kind of advice would you have for people, and how, as far as like going to visit Hawaii, how can like tourists or even like people that are kind of just occupying, or they bought a place in Hawaii, they're not from there, how can they enrich the environment over there and not contribute to like the gentrification, that kind of stuff? That's a really tricky question, man, but I don't know if you got.
I don't know if I can just say, like, so if someone were to move here or visit here, I guess one of the things that you could say about it is it's important to understand the culture before you get here, because it's a culture that formed here by itself, not with America involved, and then it became a state. So I always like to kind of point people that the fact that this used to be a territory, it used to be a kingdom. So there's a lot of like things that people should consider. They're not just coming to another state if they're coming from America, because they're coming to like basically a different country with the United States attached, but it's different culturally here. And I think it's best for people just to be respectful to what is already here and the ways of people here, because people even drive nicer here. They actually let you in still. And not everywhere, but like just, there's aloha still here. So it's one of the positive things about Hawaii is aloha is like a way of life. So people are very welcoming and will actually, say if you're in line with less items, oh, go ahead, you know, and you don't see that a lot of places. So I think people need to come in here and respect the culture. How they can give back is kind of hard to say. It's you know, I guess just come in. When people come here too, they have to realize that it's never going to be America like they think, and they just have to drop those expectations. But then,
Worlds
you know,
away, yo.
what's that?
It's worlds away
It is.
from
It is. It's its own place.
USA. Like
Yeah. It's
all
its own
day.
place. It's like its own, but it's a great place if you just want to like not come here with like people that come here that are humble and stuff, they do fine. But people that come here with attitude, locals will fight back. You know, locals don't like attitudes that come from places that are rude. Well, I don't either.
Yeah.
Like, hey man, you ain't from the chops, man. What the hell? Busting my chops, man. Like
Yep.
just
And
kidding, but yeah.
there's still quite a bit of language, right? Like a lot of words that are spoken that from the Hawaiian language too.
Yeah, in the pidgin
Yeah.
language, there's a lot of words that are Hawaiian, like oh no is good, like that tastes oh no, that's excellent. So you'll hear that a lot, but nobody really speaks Hawaiian like fluently. It's not really it's a dead language. It's like a lot of Native American languages, but pidgin has allowed that to come through with a little bit of Japanese in there too, a little bit of Portuguese and a lot of cuss words, and it's a mixture. But it's the language here is it varies too from island to island. There's different words that people might use, and but Hawaiian is still behind it all. And as much as the Hawaiian people have struggled, there's still a trace of this is, you know, was a real place called Hawaii, or you know, and it changed, but there's still that behind it all. And I hope it never loses that, but it's not looking good.
Right.
Fuck, man, because what you just said, that's like that. We cannot let that that unifying spirit, that flame die out, right?
Yeah. No,
And
I mean, no, go ahead.
I was just thinking about, you know, the land itself being very sacred and having, you know, significance around, I don't know, like the ancientness of that land and the energy, maybe it being a vortex of some sort. I'm not sure what your thoughts are on that.
On the
And
earth chakras.
yeah, possibly, right? And, you know, is there somewhat of a sense of that being threatened? You know, I think that anyone who visits a land like that, hopefully they're deeply respectful of the land itself.
Yeah, there's a definite ancient connection here that's far deeper than even the Hawaiians, because there was a people here before the Hawaiians. We don't know exactly who they were. They were a shorter people called Menehunes, but they were the original people, and then they were killed off by Tahitians who came here who were like 3 feet taller than them and just slaughtered them all. So there's a real ancient, and this could be the center or part of Mula if we're to believe that. I think I do, you know, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that this part of the continent of Mula, and there's a lot of definitely there's some energy out here that I've experienced that is really strong compared to most places I've been in the world. I am making a documentary, and it starts out with a lot of these ancient spots in the world, and a theme that I'm going to interweave through it is I think I found an ancient pyramid here, and a friend on the Big Island might have found one too. So I'm going to, you know, do some I'm going to get some filming of both if I can. And so there's stuff that's, you know, here that's far more ancient. And I think if someone wanted to really get in touch with that, I think that's, if anything, the best thing to get in touch with more than locals is there's this energy of the land here that is very distinctly Hawaii. It's hard to explain, but it's like there's some intense and crazy energies out here. So I think we are on a ley line of some sort out here for sure.
Yeah,
take it back to nature, baby. And I know
Yeah.
you're down with that natty law too, yo. So.
Yeah, I appreciate your touching on that and how synchronistic. You're doing a documentary. So,
Wow. Yeah. All the best with that.
excellent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
just
great.
decided one day that I have all this footage from around the world, and I just
Mhm.
put it together like, huh, what if I made a documentary? I started on iMovie. I was like, oh wow, actually this could be cool. So
Mhm.
I'm just gonna do it. It might take me. I'm just finding time to work on it now. So hopefully by June, but who knows? Video
That's
editing is so time consuming,
Oh, I know.
and I'm not
Yeah.
even good at it.
Yeah.
I'm not good at I'm
Wow.
kind of a technological idiot. Like I just stuck in the 90s or something. Still, my brain doesn't
Oh,
like
I
I'm
know.
basic, I'm just not that good at this.
Yeah, persistence.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
to the mission. We need to keep expanding our skills, right?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
trying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Learning curves.
Yeah. So this is really eye-opening and an interesting chat, like to see a little bit
Yeah.
into those islands and these larger issues, that you cover.
Mhm.
So I'm excited actually to look at more of your work and follow
Oh
your
yeah.
channels.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Very
Derek,
good.
you were talking about the South Pacific. I did an episode like
Mm.
years back, and there's a lot of mysterious South Pacific spots too that a lot of people
Mm.
haven't uncovered. So yeah, I've been to Tahiti as well, and it's
Mhm.
it's a
Cool.
really awesome spot for sure.
Mm.
I love the
Mm.
South Pacific. It's good. It's most people don't know about that part of the world because could you draw a map of the South Pacific? It'd be really
Mhm.
hard, right? But there's a lot to
Yeah.
know about, there's a lot of island
Mhm.
groups. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt, Luemas.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, brother.
Wow. Well,
Thanks
thank
so
you
much
so
for
much.
Hey,
Yeah.
yeah, thanks for having me on. It's great connecting. And
Yeah.
Finally, yeah.
we'll do some more stuff down the road.
Yeah, that would be exciting. And
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I hope
yeah, I
so.
really appreciate all the work and the heart that you put into, your work and the knowledge you're putting out into the world to
Persistence.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Longevity. That's what's
I know
up.
with podcasting, like I've been doing it for 10 years now, and to me it was always a labor of love, but like it never was usually a burden or anything. And when I think like, whoa, what happened in those 10 years? It just like suddenly people are saying that I've been around a long time. I'm like, well, I guess. And then, oh, okay, yeah. But people I followed have been around a lot longer. So to me, I'm like, oh, those are the real OGs, but like they're, it's amazing how if you just keep doing something, eventually more people come and check it out. And persistence is key, just sticking with something. And even if
Right.
I'm not trying to make money off of it or anything, it's just the thing that I do that hopefully helps the world. And just like you guys do this, and you hope that it's helping people out there. And that's basically all we can do without getting violent or something. Basically, this is the way we can open up minds and hearts.
Yeah. Well, continuing to live and be alive, and thrive the best we can, in our natural state. Yeah. And that unraveling too is, similar, a persistent process, right? We want to keep persistent on this path and hopefully not completely overwhelm ourselves, but to allow like that gradual unraveling with persistent pace. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to say this real quick. I've noticed in the recent years since COVID, a lot of people have woken up maybe too fast. They've come through this rabbit hole and suddenly they've gone from like a regular whatever you want to call normie kind of person to like thinking that the earth is flat or something, and I don't really subscribe to that, but I'm just saying like the extremities. And there's a lot of people that wake up and they're very combative and they think that they know it all kind of thing, and they try to tell you about, and that's kind of upset me in the last few years. Is there's a lot of people that are sort of like they're not very well nuanced, I guess, in this kind of like thinking, and maybe it takes time, and maybe I was like that too. I don't really remember, but that I think it's important for people to wake up at a good speed, not too fast and not too crazy with it, and take it in and take it through take it through your channels of rational, balance the brain out with it, because It's
The trivium.
the trivium. Thank you. I'm trying to remember it. What I was trying to say.
Yeah,
And
The
the
right left
quadrivium.
hemisphere balance, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
gotta keep it, yeah.
Well, exactly. So bring it through the
Yeah.
trivium and just like, there's a lot to it. And as you guys know, just talking about the stuff I cover and probably the different things you guys cover, it encompasses all things really. And it's
Yeah.
like that it's not something you just learn real fast and become a know-it-all or
Exactly.
what's that jump to conclusions conspiracy
Mhm.
theorist.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, very
Hey,
good
that
point.
sounds like a board
Appreciate
game.
It is.
that. Yeah, I think we got to keep the aloha, in this
Right.
process, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that too.
Word.
Yeah.
I
yeah,
like that.
Yeah. And always the love for life, and the love for people it was harder after COVID. I'm sure you guys agree, but we got to try to keep that alive because we still got to be like these amazing people to give this message out. You want to be like this person full of a lot of experience in life and love, not just, I don't know, just coming eclectic. Yeah.
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 Not come from resentment or anger so much. I think that
Yeah. Yeah.
is not help inspire people so
No,
much.
seen
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for your contributions and look forward to our paths interweaving again.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
guys.
Thank you.
It's great
Luemas.
talking.
Yeah.
All right.
All righty. Have a great one.
You too.
Bye.
Take care.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys.
All righty.
Welcome, you guys. I'm Luemas. I'm the host of Chant It Down Radio, a podcast that deals with the truth on planet Earth and helps people to discover and understand the situation that we're in and help people to grow and people to learn and see a whole new perspective and give you a lens to look through on Chant It Down Radio. So I've been doing these podcasts for over 5 years, and I like to continue to do them. But if you want to find out more about the podcast and just what I do exactly, all the information about the show can be found at chantitdownradio.com. I'm also a musician. I've been a hip-hop artist for a very long time and been able to do a lot of different things with that as well. So your contributions allow me to give you much more. So if you receive value from my podcast, then this is the place also to help support the show. I'm a one-man show. I work a full-time job. I have a family. I do a lot of things that take up a lot of time, and those things have to come first in my life. And I actually spend money creating podcasts, and I make very little. And so it's not about making money, but it's about the support that can help continue this work, because I can't really do it without listener donations, and I can't continue to give you lots of great stuff and guests and subject matter if it's not received at times. And I'll be able to give you more. If you contribute here on Patreon, you will receive access to a video documentary that I'll be doing in the near future called Everything Chanted Down. And we go around and look at society, and we really have a look through the lens of Chant It Down Radio in video form. Also, you will get complete access to the album Waking the Systemites, which is by People Beyond, which is me, a solo effort that took a long time, and this will be readily available for you. Or if you can contribute, you can also just get a cent copy of a cent CD. And also you'll have access to rare cuts that I've made in the past and freestyles and things that you won't get anywhere else. So helping support Chant It Down Radio will give you all this, and it'll help expand my works and help grow the way that it needs to go, so you can get more of this information and it may help you in everyday life. So if your support is very appreciated, and we will continue to work this through as much as I can. But like I say, the efforts that do take time, and time is very little in my life, so I would like to have more time, and therefore in order to have that time I will have to get more
contributions so I can create more. So that's the idea of this, solely just to get the great work out for people to understand, to expand this perspective of knowing what's really going on planet Earth. So thank you so much for everything you do. Thank all my listeners, and keep on chanting down the system.
Chant It Down Radio's coming to you live from the Hawaiian Islands, coming from the perspective of complete freedom, coming from wisdom outside the system and